Hello, sweet soul, and welcome back to Brit's Bedtime Stories. This is another little micro story for you guys. It's called The Girl Who Was Afraid of the Eclipse. And it's a story about darkness, not the frightening kind. The kind that arrives when something you love suddenly feels far away. The kind that makes your heart whisper, what if the light doesn't come back? So, settle in. Let your shoulders soften. Take one slow breath in with me, in through the nose. Hold. And out through the mouth. Good. You don't need to figure anything out tonight. Just listen. And let the story find whatever part of you needs it. Now, let's begin. There once was a girl who was afraid of eclipses. Her name was Elara. She lived in a small village surrounded by mountains where people could see so much of the sky that sometimes it seemed there was more heaven than earth. Lara loved the sky. She loved thunderstorms. She loved meteor showers. She loved lying beneath the stars until she became dizzy trying to imagine where the universe ended. But eclipses, those frightened her. Because Lara had spent much of her life learning one terrible lesson. When something warm disappeared, you chased it. When someone became quiet, you found out why. When affection changed, you fixed it. And when someone you loved stepped away, you followed. Quickly, before they could disappear completely. Lara did this without thinking. Her body simply knew. Distance meant danger. Silence meant something was wrong. And darkness meant the light might never return. One summer, astronomers announced that an eclipse would pass directly over her village. Everyone was delighted. Children made the cardboard viewers. The bakery created cookies shaped like crescent moons. Families planned picnics. Visitors arrived from distant cities carrying telescopes and cameras. But Elara felt something tighten beneath her ribs. She knew what an eclipse was. She understood the science. The moon would move between Earth and the sun. For a few extraordinary moments, daylight would fade. Then the moon would continue along its orbit, and the sun would return. Perfectly predictable. Perfectly ordinary. Perfectly safe. Her mind understood all of this, but her body didn't seem particularly impressed. The morning of the eclipse arrived, and Elara considered staying inside, closing the curtains, waiting until everything was normal again. But an elderly woman named Myra lived beside her. Myra was the sort of woman who grew herbs in mismatched teacups and seemed incapable of hurrying anywhere. She knocked gently on Elara's door Come, watch with me. Elara shook her head. I don't like eclipses. Mara smiled. Neither did our ancestors. Elara blinked. That's supposed to make me feel better? Myra laughed. No. Then she held out her hand. But perhaps you shouldn't be alone with something that frightens you. And somehow, that was different. Myra wasn't telling her there was nothing to fear. She wasn't laughing at her. She wasn't asking her to stop feeling what she felt. She was simply saying, you do not have to feel this alone. So Elara went. They walked to a quiet meadow overlooking the mountains. The sun was brilliant overhead. Warm, familiar, reliable. Elara tilted her face toward its warmth, and then, very slowly, the light began to change. At first it was almost imperceptible. Then the afternoon grew strangely dim. The air cooled, bird song softened. Shadows became unfamiliar shapes on the grass. Alara's heart began beating faster. There it was, that old feeling. Something is changing. Do something. Fix it. Get the light back. She looked toward Myra. What am I supposed to do? Myra was watching the sky. Nothing. Elara almost laughed. No, seriously, so am I. What if I panic? Then you panic. What if I need to leave? Then we leave. Elara stared at her. Myra finally looked over. You seem to believe being safe means never becoming afraid. She reached over and gently took Alara's hand. Sometimes safety is discovering that you can become afraid and still remain. The moon continued across the sun. The world darkened. Alara's breath shortened. Every instinct inside her screamed, bring it back. And then something occurred to her. There was nothing she could do. She couldn't pull the moon away. She couldn't push the sun closer. She couldn't negotiate with gravity. She couldn't send the sun a message asking whether everything between them was okay. She couldn't apologize to the sky for something she hadn't done. She couldn't make herself smaller, better, quieter, easier, so the light would return faster. So for once, Elara could not chase the light. She could only wait, so she did. The eclipse reached its deepest point, and for one extraordinary moment, the sun disappeared behind the moon. A brilliant ring surrounded the darkness. Elara stared upward through her viewer, and suddenly, the thing she had feared was beautiful. Darkness had arrived, yet the sun was still there. She simply couldn't see all of it. Her chest tightened again. But this time, Elara placed her hand over her heart. She breathed in slowly and breathed out even slower. Then she whispered, "Hidden. Hidden is not the same as gone." Myra squeezed her hand. No. Elara watched the black circle surrounded by fire. Changed isn't the same as lost. No. And certainty? Her voice trembled. Doesn't always mean something terrible is happening. Myra smiled. Now you're watching. Slowly, a silver of sunlight returned, then another and another. Birds began singing again. Warmth touched Elara's face. The mountains returned to gold, and Elara began to cry. Not because the sun had returned, but because she hadn't brought it back. She hadn't chased it. She hadn't begged. She hadn't fixed anything. She hadn't earned the light. She had simply stayed. She had allowed darkness to exist without turning it into an ending, without running or hiding. And the light did indeed return in its own time. Years passed. Lara still became frightened sometimes. There were unanswered messages, difficult conversations, people who loved, who needed space, plans that changed, relationships that ended, and also relationships that deepened. There were mornings when certainty disappeared behind something she couldn't quite understand. Her heart would occasionally begin its old chant, "Do something, fix it, don't let them leave." But now, Elara knew another rhythm, hand over heart. Slow breath in, longer breath out. And quietly, hidden is not the same as gone. Sometimes people returned, sometimes they didn't. And slowly, Elara learned, perhaps the hardest lesson of all. The purpose of healing wasn't learning how to guarantee that nobody would ever leave. It was learning that she would remain. Her worth would remain. Her heart would remain. And her light would remain. Even when another person's light did not. And now, sweet soul, perhaps there is something uncertain in your own life. Perhaps someone feels farther away than you would like. Perhaps something is changing. Perhaps you don't know what happens next. Your mind may want an answer. Your heart may want certainty. Your body may want to run toward the light, just to make sure it's still there. But for this moment, you don't have to chase anything. Feel the surface beneath you. And let it hold your weight. And clench your jaw. Soften your tongue. And let your shoulders sink just a little lower. Slow breath in, hold, and sigh it out. There you are. Nothing to chase, nothing to prove. Nothing you must solve before you're allowed to sleep. Some darkness is simply an eclipse, a moment when the light becomes difficult to see. And whatever tomorrow brings, you will still be here. Your breath, your body, your soul, your beautiful little spark of consciousness. It's still always going to be yours, in any form. So let the sky turn into light and dark without your help. Let the moon travel. Let the sun rest behind her shadow. Let the stars keep watch. And you, sweet soul, you can rest too. Let your eyes become heavy. Let your breathing become quiet. And if uncertainty visits you tonight, hidden is not the same as gone. Change is not the same as lost. And darkness is not always the end of the light. Good night, sweet soul. Thank you for being here. And sweet dreams.